Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So there's something going on right now in Southern California. They're seeing the largest number of earthquakes that they've seen in about 40 years. There's a swarm, and seismologists say that this is leading up potentially to a larger earthquake. There's like a pattern to this. So we're going to look at what's going on in California. We're going to do an update on Japan and the megaquake advisory that I did a video about a little while ago. And then we're going to look at other things, the general trend for wildfires and in earthquakes and volcanic activity and hurricanes and other stuff. I've done some updates. Okay, so we'll start with this. This is KTLA 5, Los Angeles. Seismologist warns of increasing earthquake activity in Southern California. All right, there are some interesting details to this, okay? Monday's 4.4 magnitude earthquake that jolted the Los Angeles area is part of a broader trend of increased seismic activity in Southern California that is likely to continue, according to the region's leading seismologist. Quote, 2024 has had more earthquakes than any year we've seen since 1988, said Dr. Lucy Jones, a geophysicist and researcher at Caltech, in an interview with KTLA 5, Morning News Tuesday. Okay, so that's almost 40 years. We're just 4 years shy. Since 1932, Southern California has averaged 10 to 12 earthquakes of magnitude 4.0 or greater per year. Okay, 10 to 12 per year since 1932. However, Jones noted that the past 20 years have seen an average of just 5 such earthquakes annually. Okay, so the average historically since 1932, 10 to 12 a year, and then it dipped down over the last 20 years. So essentially at the turn of the millennium, or you could say 2004, which is an interesting year. That's the year that President Oaks gave this talk called Preparation for the Second Coming. And it was this year that a lot of things started to increase by way of disasters and calamities. And we're going to look at that in just a minute. So this is just another one of those things, apparently. Now, in this case, instead of increasing, there's been like kind of a pause or a lull where it went from about 10 a year down to 5 for 20 years. But now here we are 20 years later, and something crazy is going on this year in 2024, which is a very interesting year for this to happen. Okay, with more than 3 months left in 2024, the region has already experienced 13 quakes measuring 4.0 or greater. So that definitely goes against that trend of the last 20 years. And it even goes above what was the average from 1932. 13, and the year is not over yet. Okay, so you see why this is like a kind of an interesting story. We should probably pay attention to this. Okay, quote, so this is an active year, much like we used to see. It does seem like we should expect this to continue at a higher rate. All right, so this seismologist is saying it's probably going to increase, but there's more. Quote, the most constant feature of earthquakes is the relative number of large to small. For every magnitude 7, you have 10 magnitude 6s, 100 magnitude 5s, 1,000 magnitude 4s, etc. So, if your rate of magnitude 4 goes up, as has been the case here, your chance of having a bigger one would go up by about the same amount. In other words, Jones says, more earthquakes mean more earthquakes. Now, we'll just have to wait and see what that looks like as we go forward. But it's not looking good. Compared to the last 20 years, 2024 is not looking good. So if you live in that area, or maybe just anywhere in the Southwest, because I've seen that there's been earthquakes in like I think in the Las Vegas area, so up into Nevada and I think even St. George, I want to say. Just be careful if you live in the Southwest. Be aware of this, okay? It just it just fits the pattern of this year, doesn't it? We've seen a lot of wild things this year. And like I said in my live stream where I was covering the first half of the year, I felt like the second half was going to be more intense, more wild, and it hasn't disappointed so far. July by itself was a crazy month. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about Japan. So there was the first ever megaquake advisory that was issued for Japan. And the prime minister was going on a trip to Central Asia, but he canceled it to come back in case there was a megaquake. There was essentially a large earthquake that was near or affected a certain trough under the ocean, and that trough is associated with large earthquakes, so they felt that this could produce a megaquake. Well, it turns out, thank goodness, this is just 15 hours ago at the time that I'm recording this, Japan lifts megaquake warning after 1 week. The Japanese government said it was no longer asking people to take special precautions, and they were free to, quote unquote, go back to normal lifestyles. So that's good news for Japan. And I was really worried because the year started out on New Year's Day. It started out with a large earthquake and the most deadly earthquake of the year in Japan. That's how we started this year. Here's my spreadsheet for earthquakes. It's not like 100% accurate. I'm not doing like a professional study or anything. I'm not a scholar, but the numbers are good enough for our purposes, and it paints a general picture. Okay, so here we are in 2024, this top row right here. I've updated the number for the deadliest earthquake, which was the one in Japan. It went up, I can't remember how much, probably about like 8, I think it was. I think it was at 331. So I don't know why that is, but it went up. Okay. So that was the deadliest earthquake. There were a couple other deadly ones, but nothing like what we've seen in recent years. Last year was particularly deadly in the number 5 spot, going back to 1985. So this year, overall, worldwide, has not really been a bad year for earthquakes, but the year's not done yet. So we'll have to wait and see. And I mean, maybe it's going to be California. I don't know if this goes like dramatically up. Maybe it's going to be California. Maybe it's going to be somewhere else, or maybe nowhere at all. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, I want to point out, when we come over here, I have these graphs based on the data to the left. And this is death toll by year. Okay, because this is one of the ways that a message is sent. If the Lord is sending judgments upon the earth and he's using different methods, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis, whatever, it really sends a large or a loud message if you have destruction, if you have deaths that result from these things. And what's interesting is that you have these two really big spikes. This one is from 2004, and this one is from 2010, both of which killed over 200,000 people. And what I think is interesting about that is this happened after President Oaks gave this talk earlier in the year in 2004. He gives a list of the signs of the times to look for. He says, biblical and modern prophecies give us many signs of the second coming. These include the fullness of the gospel restored and preached in all the world for a witness to all nations, false Christs and false prophets deceiving many, wars and rumors of wars with nation rising against nation, earthquakes in diverse places. And later that year, the day after Christmas, he had the Indonesian earthquake and tsunami that killed over 200,000 people. Number 5, famine and pestilence. Number 6, an overflowing scourge, a desolating sickness covering the land. Number 7, iniquity abounding. Number 8, the whole earth in commotion. Number 9, men's hearts failing them. And then later, I think that this is useful to read before we move on with some of these spreadsheets. Think about this. These signs of the second coming are all around us and seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity. For example, the list of major earthquakes in the World Almanac and Book of Facts 2004 shows twice as many earthquakes in the decades of the 1980s and 1990s as in the 2 preceding decades. It also shows further sharp increases in the first several years of this century. The list of notable floods and tidal waves and the list of hurricanes, typhoons, and blizzards worldwide show similar increases in recent years. Increases by comparison with 50 years ago can be dismissed as changes in reporting criteria, but the accelerated pattern of natural disasters in the last few decades is ominous. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So if you just ignore everything before the year 2000, he said that in the year 2004, there's definitely been an increase, at least when it comes to death toll and earthquakes. You have the 5 deadliest years after 2000, 2004, 2005, if it'll show up right here. And then you have 2008, 2010, and then 2023. So that is a pretty sharp increase after he gave that talk. Here's the total number of earthquakes that were 6.0 or above. It looks like there's some missing data right here, but it looks like the trend line is it's going up. It's increasing. 5.0 or above, definite increase. And that's all that I have on this spreadsheet. I have 2 volcano spreadsheets. I get this information from the Smithsonian's website. They have like a portion of it that's dedicated to volcanoes. And so they have 2 different reports. They have an annual report, which is this one right here. And I haven't updated 2024 because 2024 is not complete yet. And so there's not much that we can really glean from that when comparing it to other years. Really. So the first thing that I have here is total eruptions per year since 1960. And you can see that the trend line is ascending. I have this one to the right. These are total eruptions since the year 2010. In this case, it's actually going down, or it's almost flat, but it is kind of going down. So since 2010, it's kind of gone down, but overall, since 1960, it's gone up. These are new eruptions per year, and the trend line is ascending. Since 2010, it's actually going down. And then active volcanoes per year since 1960, that's gone up. And then since 2010, it's going up slightly. So that's what it looks like for volcanoes per year. They also put out this weekly report. And so I have all the different weeks going back to the year 2020. Maybe in the future, I'll try and go even further back, but it's a lot of work. 2020 was a pretty quiet year, averaging 17.27 eruptions per week. That's pretty low. I have this color coded, so if the number is in the teens, it's yellow. If it's above that, then it's orange, like if it's in the 20s. So 17.27 for 2020. For 2021, it went up to 20.92. And then for 2022, it went up to 22.52. So 2020 was low, and then it went up, and then it went up again in 2022. And in 2022, this is the only time so far on my spreadsheet that you have anything in the 30s. In the month of November, and then in the month of March, you had weeks that went up into the 30s. 2023 went down slightly to 22.44 average eruptions per week. And so far for 2024, it's at 21.69, so it's gone down. So here's what it looks like on the graph. There's an upwards trend, as you can see right here. This is eruptions by week since 2020. And then I have this one, yearly average by year, which is just another way of visualizing it. And of course, 2024 is not complete yet, so this is going to continue to go up. But with what's on there right now, the trend line is increasing. Okay, so we'll see how 2024 ends up. But 2022 was kind of a big year for volcanoes, especially in the very beginning of the year when you had that underwater or undersea volcano that exploded near Tonga, which produced the largest explosion, both natural or man-made, including nuclear bombs, that we've detected with modern instruments. It was huge. Okay. Now let's look at wildfires. So I'm tracking individual wildfires as well as fire seasons. And what I'm tracking are the largest or deadliest or most destructive wildfires. Those are the three things. So if it meets one of those criteria, largest, deadliest, or most destructive, then I put it on this spreadsheet. And what's really interesting is that, and I've searched many different places. I think I have all the main, states, territories, countries that are known for wildfires on here. And it all takes off in the year 2004 when President Oaks gave that talk. You guys, it's going to be really interesting if President Nelson passes away and then President Oaks becomes the president of the second coming or whatever. I feel like it's going to be even more. We're going to realize that that talk that he gave in 2004 was more prophetic than what we realized at the time. I've put together this graph to visualize it. So this is graphing the total number of events per year. So whether it's the most destructive, the deadliest, or the largest, single wildfire or total wildfire season, just the total number of events. And this is what it looks like when you put it on a graph. So you can see it starting in 2004. And since that time, it's really increased pretty dramatically. So yeah, I think these are signs of the times. The last one I want to look at is hurricanes. We're just going to look at the graphs right here. So this is total hurricanes by year, and it's including only the Atlantic and the Pacific. I'm not doing like the Indian Ocean or other areas, just the two areas that affect the United States, because if I went beyond that, it'd be even more difficult to track everything. So I'm limiting it to those two areas, but total hurricanes per year, and the trend line is going up. Here's major hurricanes per year, which is defined as a category 3 or above. And that's even more dramatic. And then I have total storms by year, which includes all hurricanes as well as tropical storms and tropical depressions. And that's even more dramatic. Even if you were just to limit it to, the year 2000 and afterwards. So any way that you look at it, they are increasing. So let's keep an eye on California and, of course, the rest of the world. But this is a little bit concerning. Again, if you're in that area, please have a plan and keep your head on a swivel. And let's be safe. All right, that's going to be for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.